Most people want habits that feel good. They want motivation, comfort, quick wins. But Stoicism was never about feeling good. It was about becoming strong. Let me be clear. These 5 habits didn't magically make my life perfect in 1 week. They didn't make more money fall from the sky. They didn't make people suddenly respect me. What they did was far more dangerous. In just 1 week, they took away my excuses. They exposed how undisciplined my mind really was, and they gave me something most people never regain once they lose it: control. Control over my reactions, control over my emotions, control over how I show up when life doesn't go my way. The Stoics believed this. You don't fix your life by changing the world. You fix your life by mastering yourself. Today, I'll share the 5 Stoic habits that force that shift. Not gently, but permanently. If you're ready to stop negotiating with weakness, stay with me. And comment this below, just once. I respect myself. 1. Start the day with control, not comfort. Most people don't lose their day at work. They lose it the moment they wake up. Before their feet touch the floor, they reach for their phone. Messages, news, notifications, other people's problems. And without realizing it, they hand over control of their mind to whatever screams the loudest. The Stoics warned us about this centuries ago, not because phones existed back then, but because the human mind has always been vulnerable at the start of the day. When you wake up, your mind is soft, unprotected, undecided. Whatever enters first sets the emotional temperature for everything that follows. That's why most people spend their entire day reacting instead of acting. Stoicism offers a brutal but simple counter-move. Begin the day by reclaiming control, not with motivation, not with positive affirmations, with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations in the early morning, not to feel inspired, but to remind himself who was in charge. Not the crowd, not circumstances, not emotions. Him. Here's the habit. For the first 10 minutes after you wake up, you do nothing that invites the outside world in. No phone, no news, no social media, no email. Instead, you ask yourself one question, slowly and honestly. What is actually in my control today? Not what you hope happens, not what others do, not outcomes, only what depends on you, your effort, your attitude, your restraint, your discipline. This single question rewires the direction of your day, because the moment you define what's in your control, everything else loses its power to disturb you. Traffic becomes irrelevant, other people's moods stop mattering, unexpected problems stop feeling personal. You've already decided your role. In my first week of practicing this, something strange happened. Nothing externally changed. Same responsibilities, same pressures, same problems. But internally, there was space. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't irritated for no reason. I wasn't mentally behind before the day even started. Why? Because control was already established. The Stoics believed anxiety doesn't come from events. It comes from false expectations of control. When you start the day by narrowing your focus to what actually belongs to you, the mind stops fighting imaginary battles. Here's how to apply this habit. Practically. When you wake up, sit up, feet on the floor. No phone. Take one slow breath, then write down 3 things you control today. Not goals. Actions. For example, I control whether I train my body. I control whether I speak with restraint. I control whether I finish the one task that matters most. That's it. You don't need inspiration. You need orientation. After 1 week of starting my day this way, I noticed something uncomfortable, but powerful. I had fewer excuses. Because when you define control clearly, you can't hide behind chaos anymore. And that's the point. This habit doesn't make your mornings pleasant. It makes them honest. And honesty is where Stoic strength begins. Remember this: if you don't choose your morning, the world will choose it for you. 2. Daily voluntary discomfort. Most people think strength comes from avoiding pain. The Stoics knew the opposite. Strength comes from choosing it on your own terms. Modern life trains you to escape discomfort. Cold? Turn the heat up. Hungry? Eat immediately. Bored? Scroll. Challenged? Quit quietly. And over time, something dangerous happens. Your tolerance shrinks. Not physically, mentally. Small problems feel unbearable. Minor stress feels overwhelming. And when real difficulty arrives, you're unprepared. The Stoics had a solution for this. They called it voluntary discomfort. Not self-punishment, not suffering for ego. Training. Seneca deliberately slept on the floor, wore simple clothes, ate plain food. Not because he enjoyed it, but because he refused to be dependent on comfort. His logic was ruthless. If you are practiced in facing difficulty when it is optional, it will not frighten you when it is mandatory. Here's the habit. Every day, you choose one small discomfort on purpose. Something safe, something temporary, something you could avoid, but don't. Not to prove anything to anyone. Only to remind yourself, I can endure more than I think. Examples: cold shower for 30-60 seconds, training when motivation is gone, walking instead of driving, skipping a meal, not from deprivation, but discipline, remaining silent when your ego wants the last word. These are not extreme acts. They are signals to the nervous system, signals that say, I am not fragile. I don't collapse when things are uncomfortable. I am in control. In my first week of practicing this habit, I noticed something unexpected. The discomfort itself wasn't the hard part. The hard part was realizing how often I avoided it before, how often I chose ease without thinking, how automatic comfort-seeking had become. But after a few days, something shifted. Cold felt less shocking, hunger felt manageable, silence felt powerful instead of awkward, and most importantly, external stress lost its grip. Because when you voluntarily experience discomfort every day, life's surprises don't feel like attacks anymore. They feel familiar. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't wait for hardship to shape them. They shaped themselves before hardship arrived. Here's how to apply this habit correctly. Choose one discomfort per day. Only one. Don't stack them. Don't dramatize them. Don't post about them. This isn't performance. It's preparation. Do it quietly. Do it consistently. And when the mind protests, when it says, this is unnecessary, remember, that voice isn't protecting you. It's training you to be weak. After just 1 week of voluntary discomfort, I wasn't tougher, I was calmer. Because when you know you can endure difficulty, you stop fearing it. And fear is what controls most people. This habit strips that control away. Remember this Stoic truth: comfort weakens, discomfort trains. 3. No complaining. No explaining. Most people don't realize this. Every complaint is a confession of powerlessness, and every unnecessary explanation is a quiet request for approval. The Stoics saw both as leaks: energy leaks, authority leaks, self-respect leaks. Yet modern life encourages the opposite. People complain to bond, they explain to be understood, they vent to feel lighter, but none of it makes them stronger. In fact, it does the reverse. Complaining trains the mind to focus on what's wrong, especially what you can't control. Explaining trains the ego to seek validation, especially from people who never asked. Stoicism cuts through this with a hard rule: say less, carry more. Epictetus warned that if you want to improve, you must be willing to appear foolish for a time, silent while others talk, steady while others justify. Here's the habit. For 7 days, you remove 2 things from your behavior: no complaining No explaining, unless it's required by duty. No subtle sighs. No, I'm just tired of. No long messages defending your position. Not because nothing bothers you, but because not everything deserves your breath. At first, this feels unnatural. The urge to complain comes fast. The need to explain feels urgent. Your ego will say, "They'll misunderstand me. This isn't fair. I need to clarify." But the Stoic response is simple. Let reality speak. Most explanations are not for clarity. They are for comfort. Comfort for the ego. Comfort from tension. Comfort from silence. But silence is not weakness. Silence is where strength consolidates. In my first week practicing this habit, I noticed something uncomfortable. I talked less and felt exposed. No story to soften reality, no narrative to protect my image, just actions. And here's what surprised me. People didn't respect me less. They respected me more. Because when you stop complaining, you stop advertising helplessness. And when you stop explaining, you stop signaling insecurity. The Stoics understood a brutal truth. People don't listen to words. They watch patterns. You can complain for 10 minutes or fix one small thing quietly. Only one of those builds authority. Here's how to apply this habit without becoming cold or arrogant. If something can be fixed, fix it. If it can't be fixed, accept it silently. And if someone misunderstands you, ask yourself, do I need to correct this, or do I just want to feel understood? Those are not the same. Most of the time, the Stoic answer is restraint. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily not to waste his limited time on noise, especially his own. After 1 week of no complaining and no explaining, my internal dialogue changed. I stopped rehearsing arguments, stopped narrating my struggles, stopped feeding irritation with words, and with fewer words, there was less friction. Less friction means more energy, and energy, properly directed, is power. Remember this Stoic law. You don't need to explain yourself to be solid. You need to act consistently. Silence, when chosen, is discipline. 4. Evening Stoic self-review. Most people end their day the same way. Exhausted, distracted, numb. They collapse into bed and let entertainment erase the day. The Stoics did the opposite. They reviewed themselves. Not to feel guilty, not to feel proud, but to become accurate. Because a life you don't examine slowly slips out of your control. Seneca wrote that every night, before sleep, he put himself on trial. Not harshly, honestly. Here's the habit. Before you sleep, every night for 1 week, you sit in silence for 5 minutes. No phone, no music, no distraction, and you ask yourself 3 Stoic questions. Not many, not complicated, just 3. First, what did I do well today? Not to inflate your ego, but to reinforce correct behavior. Strength grows where attention goes. If you never acknowledge discipline, your mind forgets to repeat it. Second, where did I lose control? Not what went wrong, but where you failed to govern yourself. Did you react emotionally? Did you procrastinate? Did you speak when silence was wiser? No excuses, no explanations, just facts. Third, what will I do differently tomorrow? Not a vague promise. One adjustment, one correction. That's it. This review does something most people avoid. It removes the illusion that life is happening to you. It makes it clear that again and again, you're participating in your own outcomes. During my first week of doing this, I noticed something uncomfortable. Patterns, the same reactions, the same excuses, the same emotional triggers. But here's the difference. I could no longer pretend I didn't see them, and awareness changes everything. The Stoics believed progress doesn't come from intensity. It comes from precision. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to correct it daily. This habit does exactly that. Each night becomes a reset. Each morning starts cleaner. Without this review, days blur together, weeks disappear, years pass quietly. With it, time sharpens. You stop repeating the same mistakes under different circumstances. Here's the key, Stoic rule for this habit. No self-hatred, no self-flattery, only truth. If you judge yourself emotionally, you distort the data. If you praise yourself excessively, you stop improving. But if you observe yourself calmly, you gain leverage. After 1 week of evening self-review, something powerful happened. I became harder to deceive. Not by others, by myself. And that's the most important battle. Remember this Stoic principle. An unexamined day trains unconscious weakness. A reviewed day builds conscious strength. 5. Act according to values, not mood. Most people wait for the right feeling. Motivation, confidence, energy. The Stoics waited for none of it. They understood a hard truth. If your actions depend on mood, your life will always be unstable. Mood changes, values don't. Modern culture teaches you to listen to your feelings. Stoicism teaches you to lead them. Because feelings are weather, values are a compass. Here's the habit. For 1 week, you choose one core value. Just one. Discipline, honesty, courage, restraint. Then, no matter how you feel, you act in alignment with that value at least once per day. Not perfectly, deliberately. If your value is discipline, you act when you don't feel like it. If your value is honesty, you speak truth when silence would be easier. If your value is courage, you do the uncomfortable thing you've been avoiding. This is not about intensity, it's about identity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he was born to do the work of a human being, not to chase comfort, not to obey impulse. During my first week of this habit, I learned something decisive. My feelings were unreliable. One day I felt capable, the next day I didn't. But when I acted according to values, regardless of mood, self-respect began to stabilize. And when self-respect stabilizes, so does life. Here's what changes fast when you live this way. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, do I feel like it? You start asking, is this who I am? That shift is everything, because once action is tied to identity, consistency becomes natural. Not easy, natural. After 1 week, I didn't feel happier. I felt cleaner, less internal conflict, less regret at night, less self-contempt in the mirror. Because nothing corrodes the mind faster than knowing what's right and choosing comfort instead. This habit ends that erosion. Remember this Stoic law, feelings follow actions, not the other way around. When you live by principles, emotions eventually fall in line. 1 week didn't change my life. It changed me. These 5 habits didn't transform my circumstances. They transformed my standards. I started the day with control, not comfort. I trained myself with small, chosen discomforts. I removed complaining and unnecessary explanations. I reviewed myself honestly every night, and I acted according to values, not mood. 1 week didn't make life easier. It made me harder to break. That's what Stoicism offers. Not shortcuts, not motivation, but a way to stand steady when life refuses to be kind. If you take anything from this video, take this. You don't need a new life. You need self-respect practiced daily. Choose one habit tonight. Just one. And if you're serious about it, comment this below. I respect myself. Like the video if this helped you think clearly. Subscribe if you're committed to discipline over comfort. And remember, I don't chase feelings. I live by principles.